Existing technologies that have been developed using the theory of relativity. In the theory of relativity, Einstein proposed that there is no absolute frame of reference. He also said that the speed of light is constant and independent of the motion of the observer. The theory of relativity has been used in many fields like space-time, particle physics, astronomy. It has also been applied to computer science and software development. For example, Einstein's theory has been used to project the speed of light in a computer program by using the time it takes for a signal to reach an observer. The time is calculated for each observer because none of them can have a common frame of reference. The rate at which time passes may vary depending on whether an object is moving or not. For example, the first person to reach the finish line travels a shorter distance than person 2 because he has less time to cover that distance than his competitor. In addition, the speed of light is constant, and as such, this variable can also be used to calculate the time for each observer of a signal. The speed of light is 299,792 kilometers per second. If a signal with a wavelength of 300 meters travels at the speed of light from one point to another, then it will take 0.0046 seconds for this signal to reach an observer. The formula for calculating the distance is, where Vx is the velocity of an object and t is time. Distance traveled by signals at different wavelengths. The time taken for a signal to reach an observer is related to the wavelength of the signal. The distance is related to the frequency of the wave and its wavelength. The signal traveling at a longer wavelength covers a shorter distance than one traveling at a shorter wavelength. In optics, light travels in waves with different wavelengths, the smaller or the larger, depending on their frequency or speed. For example, red light has a shorter wavelength than blue light and thus covers more distance in less time. When light travels through the medium, the wavelength its speed is reduced. The distance traveled by a signal at different wavelengths. In air, the speed of light is approximately 3.00 by 10^9 meters per second. When light travels through the medium, the wavelength its speed is reduced. The distance traveled by a signal at different wavelengths is shown in the accompanying table. Length distance traveled red 1 meter 0.0005 meters, blue 2 meters 0.006 meters, green 3 meters 0.01 meters. The time taken a signal to pass through the medium is related to its wavelength. Wavelength length time taken red 1 meter 0.5 s, blue 10 meters 5 south, green 20 meters 10 s. In general, it takes longer for a slower moving wave to travel than for a faster moving wave. The speed of a wave is affected by the following factors. Red light has a shorter wavelength than blue light and thus covers more distance in less time. The medium it travels in, the speed of sound. The wavelength of the signal. Its frequency. I. 4.a. 5 ways in which Einstein's equation is used today. Einstein's equation is one of the most famous equations in the world. It was used by Einstein himself to describe how mass and energy are related. With the development of technology, this equation has been used in many different ways. Some examples are: 1. In electronics, it is used to calculate power and speed at which a signal travels through a wire. 2. In genetics, it is used to calculate the probability of a gene being passed on or not. 3. In quantum mechanics, it is used to calculate changes in energy levels for an atom. 4. In particle physics, it is used to calculate the mass of particles. 5. In astrophysics, it is used to calculate chemical composition of stars. Gravitational force keeps the planets in orbit around the Sun and possible other objects in our solar system. Without gravity, everything would fly off into space and nothing would be able to stay together. Kinetic energy is related to mass, so moving objects have less kinetic energy. The moment of inertia for the planet is 0.000000001 kgm2 or 23.57788 by 10 to 28 kilograms cm2. The moment of inertia is the measure of an object's resistance to angular acceleration. A unit of angular momentum is a joule per kilogram squared, or J/kg2. The moment of inertia for a planet is proportional to its mass. Hence, the greater the mass of an object, the lower its moment of inertia. As an object with a large mass, and thus low moment of inertia, moves, it will have more kinetic energy than an object with a smaller mass, and thus higher moment of inertia. With a square-cube law, everything gets larger in proportion to the volume, so there are some limits on how small something can be. What is a moment of inertia? Moment of inertia is a property of an object to resist acceleration. When an object travels through the air, a force called air resistance is created by the interaction between molecules in the atmosphere. Air resistance causes frictional forces which slow down or halt objects as they move through them. The drag created when an object moves through air is known as aerodynamic drag, and is calculated using this formula. Drag force D equals half CD equals CdAv2, where D is the drag force, C is the speed of the object, meter per second, dA is the surface area of the object in m2, and v is its velocity, meter per second. Mathematically, a force of drag is expressed as this equation, F equals half CD of V 23.4. 3 drag force on a smaller object. The drag force on an object is less when that object performs a smaller angle of attack, A, with the air. The below equation shows this relationship, D equals half CdAv2, where C is the speed of the larger object, meter per second, and dA is the surface area of the smaller object in m2. The drag force on a sphere is expressed as the following equation. D equals half CD of V3, where C is the speed of the sphere in meter per second, and dA is its surface area in m2. What is a drag force on a cylinder? The drag force on a cylinder is expressed as the following equation, D equals half CdAv2. Where C is the speed of the cylinder in meter per second, and dA is its surface area in m2. What is the theoretical formula for drag force? The theoretical formula for drag force can be obtained by taking the cross-sectional area of an object, A, and its speed in meter per second. The drag force on a sphere is expressed as the following equation, D equals half CD of V3, where C is the speed of the sphere in meter per second, and dA is its surface area in m2. Einstein explains why we should be excited about science and technology. We should be excited about science and technology because they are the future of humanity. We should not think of these AI writers as a replacement for human copywriters. They just provide assistance to the content writers by getting rid of writer's block and generating content ideas at scale. AI writers and other content-generating software is not only a future of the writing industry, but it's also a future of the publishing industry. Publishers are now able to offer a variety of content at scale both in print and on digital devices. The potential for AI writers to help publishers is endless, as long as the writers work for free or low rates. The most recent trend in content creation is the emergence of artificial intelligence. AI writing is a new trend, and not everyone can afford to hire full-time writers. Other than that, people who want to write for fun or for potential future jobs often find it difficult to maintain a consistent output. Other than that, people who want to write for fun or for potential future jobs often find it difficult to maintain a consistent output. If you want to become an AI writer, then you should expect a number of challenges. As with any writing industry, AI writers will be expected to work relatively long hours and may not be paid much. They might also need to learn the standard writing genres in order to maintain their productivity. However, AI writers are able to churn out diverse content for time-pressured brands at scale and for a low cost, which is a major benefit for brands and customers. Q1. What are some successful AI writers? BuzzFeed has a team of journalists who are AI writers and write entirely in GIFs. In addition, the AI-generated content from IBM Watson was shared nearly 2 million times on YouTube. The bottom line is that AI writing could be the future of content marketing. The legal status of AI research and development in the U.S. is adhering to existing laws and regulations related to research and testing. For example, a research project might use algorithms to help identify patterns of economic activity. Thank you for watching The Secrets of Albert Einstein's Formulation of Special Relativity, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, please.